I'd like to call this Sunset Beach Town Council, our November the 17th, 2020 meeting to open. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everybody out that's joining us this morning. Does any member of the council have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest with regards to any item on the agenda? If so, please state at this time.
No.
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 All right. Amendment and approval of the draft agenda.
I have no changes.
No changes. Anyone have any changes? Ms. Harris, you good? Mr. Phillips?
Nope. No changes.
All right. Then do I get a motion to approve the draft agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to our council discussion. Does anyone have any discussion just bring up? Mr. Corbett, you got anything?
No.
Mr. Phillips?
No, sir.
Ms. Harris?
No.
Mr. Foreman?
I do have.
Go ahead, sir.
One thing.
Go ahead.
I'd like to thank Dustin and the Public Works crew for putting up the Christmas decorations and decorating the Christmas tree in the roundabout. I'm not much for Christmas before the day after Thanksgiving, but you have to get it up, and it looks really good, just like always.
Anyone have anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to mention something, just to inform the council that I did attend the North Carolina Beaches, Inlets, and Waterways Association meeting, which was earlier this week. It was a two-day meeting that was held as a hybrid meeting, which means that there were people present. There were 65 people present. There were 75 people that attended virtually. It was a learning experience for me. They had presentations by the Army Corps of Engineers, by DCM, by the Water Authority, which is the one that's actually providing us the funds for our dredging project. What was surprising to me was the amount of activity that is going on up and down the coast of North Carolina, both for dredging and for beach nourishment activities. For example, the Army Corps of Engineers just this year had a budget of $54 million just for maintenance, another $350 million for storm damage, and they had another $44 million for various projects that they had, which were also considered maintenance. So there's a lot of money being spent, and the approach is to maintain the navigability of the waterways, to make sure that our beaches don't disappear, which is happening up and down the coast. There are many beach nourishment activities, including right around us here in Oak Island and in Ocean Isle Beach. They have activities going on where they're taking sand from dredging projects, which is supposed to happen in Charlotte Inlet and Lockwood Folly. So there's a lot of activity going on. When you think about what we're trying to do here, it's a small little piece of huge activity that's happening up and down the coast. So it's quite interesting to me, and I think it was a good thing for me to attend. I just want to let council know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, moving on. Our public comments on agenda items. Does anyone from the back want to speak? Mr. Corbett, will you ask?
Yeah. Do you want to speak now?
Yes, I will.
Yeah. Come on up. You have to bring your mask.
Oh, in here.
Yeah.
State your name and your address, please, sir. Now, we got a timer. Of course, it's 3 minutes. I think you know that, but if it gets down close, I'll just give you a little heads up so you can tie your stuff up. I don't want to cut you short.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jeff Bonds. Address is 903 East Main. And I'm here today, I'd like to see that the council would reconsider this parking situation on East Main. Allowing vehicles to pull right up against people's driveway over there is creating a safety hazard. And I don't think that we've got as big a problem with the public, maybe with the exception of a woman in a BMW, but that's a safety hazard over there by not being able to see when you go to back out of your driveway. You can't see pedestrians till it's too late, particularly bicycles and oncoming traffic. And I'd like to see that the council reconsider where a few people have put up some poles to prevent people from parking against their driveway. And plus the fact, I think that the town of Sunset Beach has set themselves up by allowing parking there for liability aspects in accordance to the engineer from the Department of Transportation Division of Right-of-Ways. He says that if the town permits parking in that right-of-way, that the town takes on the liability. So I hope that we can reconsider this thing in public safety, plus the fact that the people on the island do pay a higher tax rate in their property taxes and should have some say-so over there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Was there anyone else back there that wants to speak?
No.
Okay. You'll just cut that microphone off, sir? We appreciate it. Just hold on to it. All right, if there's no more, moving on to old business. First up is Chief Haselmeyer with our Beach Patrol 2020 season operational review.
All right, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Bottom.
Just tap it once.
All right, good morning. Thank you. We'll try to keep this as brief and quick as possible, but what's become customary to review the Beach Patrol season and kind of recap things, make some recommendations and whatnot. Within your packet for this meeting, there's a review and recap that Deputy Chief Adams put together. And I'm just gonna briefly mention a few things and then I'm gonna turn it over for him. We have a PowerPoint and that's pretty much all pictures of some different things that happen along the Strand this summer, so he can briefly talk about those. And then I have a few things at the end to bring up and wrap things up. And then of course we'll answer any questions hopefully at the end that you have and come up with any changes that we want to work on for next year. But of course 2020 there was lots of different challenges. There still are. The beach was no different. It was interesting this year compared to the first full summer I was here. There seemed to be a lot more sharks, but they live out there and people always let us know when there's sharks, but there were several in tide pools. There was a couple week period where there was all kinds of jellyfish out there. There were several boats that became abandoned on the beach strand that we had to deal with. There was a period in early September where there was a whole lot of dead fish that came onto the beach strand, and Dustin's crew and some of the beach patrollers and even firefighters were out there. So that was a big event. I think in the review report there that you see, there were several rescues, several around the pier. So the beach patrol staff and the firefighters on the staff did an excellent job with those incidents. As always, there's always EMS related calls out there varying from minor to severe. And of course, Hurricane Isaias at the beginning part of August threw us all for a little loop, but we recovered pretty quickly from that. But overall, I want to thank Deputy Chief Adams for filling that position, providing the leadership to the beach patrol staff, and also Deputy Chief Childers spent a lot of time out on the beach. We didn't include hours that Deputy Chief Childers and myself spent out there. And that's not a huge thing, but our presence was also out there assisting as needed. I wanted to thank early in this presentation too, Joe Corino from the Communication Center for the Sheriff's Department, who provided us with a radio channel for the beach patrol that worked much better this year than in previous years. So our communication across the whole 3.5 miles from Tubbs Inlet to the jetties was much better this year. So we appreciate that. And before I turn it over to Deputy Chief Adams for that PowerPoint, our observation on the Strand from right before Memorial Day, when everything kind of opened back up, was the beach Strand was consistently busier than previous years from Memorial Day through Labor Day. And that provided some challenges, but we also adapted and overcame. And we ended up staffing the beach, or having some beach patrol staff on the weekends in October, which we haven't done in the past. So some good and bad there, but overall, all right, I'll bring him up and talk about some of the pictures and events, and then I'll come back and wrap it up.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, if you want to go ahead and go to the first slide. All right, the first thing is we planned this last year and actually put it in play at the beginning of this year, our Rip Current flag system. So we got a lot of positive feedback. We're the only beach in Brunswick County who has an active Rip Current flag system. Oak Island does have a large flag at their water rescue base in the center of their island, but I mean, all day long everybody can see if the currents change, and also on social media we'll post our the daily updates on the rip currents and stuff like that. So overall, this has been really good program. All right. This is May 15th. This is some aerial shots I got from Sergeant Cully with the police department with the drone. Just, I believe that was right before, the weekend before Memorial Day. Okay. All right, so he talked about some jellyfish. You know, that's a moon jelly there on the left. And then on the right, we got the Portuguese man o' wars. They came in full effect a couple times this year. And we tried to pick those up off the beach as much as we could. The man o' wars, they can sting you several hours after they wash up, so it was real big because of the purple blue color. Little kids were picking them up and putting them in buckets and stuff like that, so we were trying to bury those whenever we found them. And I know one day we picked up probably a total of 65, 70 just in one day. So all right, May 29th, that first thing that morning, I get a phone call on my way to work at 6:45 that we had a visitor on the beach, a little 3.5 foot alligator. He contacted Lee Hall, and he went about knee deep, caught him with a catch pole, and we got him relocated. One thing that I really want to do this year, and I was able to do a little bit of it, is the training with the beach patrol staff. That way they can help us when we got to launch the jet ski or the boat or anything like that. So this is just one of our training scenarios we did. We went down towards Bird Island where there's not many people, and I was able to get a couple of our new firemen with us. So that way we all got some good valuable training on a not so calm day. And we had a couple windstorms this year, and that day there we lost, they lost 50 canopies on the beach that we actually helped pull off. We cut them up, threw them in the Public Works trailer, and we had about 2 windstorms that were pretty significant this year. This was the bigger one with, that day we brought 50 canopies off. All right. It's just a couple shots from various times of the year. It's towards the end of June. This was a weekend before July 4th. June 30th, like as Chief Hasselmeyer was saying, we had sharks getting caught in tidal pools. This one was right past 40th Street. We were able to get him back in the ocean and he'd swim away. There's a nice shot at the east end on July 4th. Then we had the hurricane there. They were, which we pretty much lucked out compared to, you know, a lot of the other beaches, but we were able to have the beach filled up that afternoon. By that afternoon at 3 o'clock, it looked like nothing had ever happened. And this year is Labor Day. Still got a pretty good crowd. And that was random shot. Somebody sent me one of the beach patrollers. And I believe that was the last slide.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
All right, a couple of the bigger ticket items that I want to reiterate and mention. The flag system that we talked about, I think last fall when we were talking about developing it and going with that program. We base that flag system and the color on the UTVs on the beach based off of the National Weather Service's weather report for the day. And we've gotten great feedback from the National Weather Service in Wilmington about that and coordinate those efforts. So it's one thing that we have the beach patrol staff, myself, Deputy Chief Adams, Deputy Chief Childers. We check those reports every morning, and typically they get updated around midday. So if there needs to be a change, we make that happen. And the feedback's been very good, so we plan on continuing that. This year, because of COVID-19, we decided not to have a summer firefighter apprentice that we did the previous year. That everything's in line for that program, and hopefully, depending on how the spring goes, and hopefully we can find an apprentice or two for next summer, because that'll help us out with not only staffing, but provide a young person that's in college or working on emergency services some real life experience too. So the plan is to keep that program going depending on what happens. The capital apparatus and equipment replacement plan that you all have seen is on track. The jet ski that was approved, we're about to place that order. We have to order it because nobody has any in stock. So that's in place. We're currently evaluating the UTVs. Some of them are 2 years old, right? 2 years, and then the younger ones are 1 year old. So we're evaluating those to see. Originally, we were thinking we could get 3 years out of them, and that's still our belief. Whether we can get, we got to watch the hours and stuff, but that'll be a budget topic based on our analysis in the spring. But overall, in pretty good shape. RIP current safety education, not only with the National Weather Service and their warnings and weather information that we put out. I think all of you have seen the koozies we pass out and the mini footballs, and Sunset Vision donating some more footballs late in the season because we had a pretty good crowd out there. But the chips with the RIP current safety video TV code on it, those type of things, water safety brochures, and really trying to get out in the public. Some of the training education events that we thought about doing this year we couldn't do, but that stuff's always on the forefront of trying to prevent water related incidents. The Jack Helbig Memorial Foundation, and they're out of Southport, they approached us a couple months ago, sometime in the summer, about our Life Ring program on the beach strand that we started. Well, this was the second year they were on the strand. They approached us about showing some support and trying to get that in other beaches in Brunswick County. So they're They had Deputy Chief Adams come to one of their foundation meetings and kind of present what we are doing on the beach strand here with the life rings. And they liked the idea, so they're trying to get some ground. And I've been in communication with the fire chief in Southport and hopefully get that program started elsewhere as well. So that's all good things. And that overall is our recap, and we'll talk about, answer any questions hopefully that you have. And
Anybody got any questions for Chief? Mr. Phillips? Mr. Corbett?
What actually is the area that the beach patrol covers? Do they go from the jetty to the east end of the Tubbs Inlet?
so as far as rescue, emergencies, we'll go that whole stretch. As far as ordinances, the town limits from,
The town limits on the west end to the town limits on the east end.
which is just past 40th, there's a trash can, and then that
We use the last set of trash cans because there is a sign up in the dunes on going toward Bird Island, but it's
Mhm.
don't know where it's at right now. It's buried. But so we just use the trash cans as markings.
Okay, and so beyond that is not Sunset Beach, even though it is North Carolina.
Right. It's our response area for emergency calls, and what we'll do is we'll send somebody down there, especially in the hottest part of the days, once or twice a day, just to check on people walking. I mean, you'll be surprised how many people that, we give a bottle of water to, or they're just can't make it back. So, but we don't enforce toward Bird Island.
We don't enforce past 40th Street, you're saying? So somebody can come down with a dog during the day?
Well, the last set of trash cans, which is, about 100 yards past 40th Street. So we go to the last set of trash cans.
Okay. And on the east end, what is the visible boundary that people can see?
The emergency access, the last trash cans on the east end also. That's right before the emergency access.
What about Palm Cove? Isn't that part of Sunset Beach? Lisa? Yeah. So my view is that they should also go down at least as far as the last access way, even though it's a private access way. That is Sunset Beach still, right? We haven't gotten into Ocean Isle. Yeah. As a consideration for next year. Because you hit down to 18th Street, and then you have a complete new set of rules and behavior patterns that go down the east end.
Right.
And I think we ought to do our best to kind of enforce that.
we can do that, and we'll mark it.
Okay. Did you have something?
Well, I just wanted to say that the beach itself is public all the way.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, but we're not patrolling the beach that is public beach that, like, we patrol between 40th and 18th Street, past 18th Street, and we should patrol that part of the beach also, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
It shouldn't be a, free behavior zone, if you will. Do we ever have foot patrols? I mean, when you get down on busy times of the year between like 28th, 29th Street and 2nd, 3rd Street, something like
Yeah.
that, it gets really packed.
Oh.
You can't get a UTV down there, but there's, there are times you walk down there and there'll be glass bottles or pets that are kind of concealed that you cannot see from a UTV up at the dunes end.
I'll answer all three questions, or
Sure.
I'll try to give kind of my perspective on it.
Yeah.
One, yes, foot patrols, and a lot of times it's midday, early afternoon when it's busiest. They'll have a beach patroller park by the gazebo and walk, especially 3rd Street to 27th, 28th in there. And so yes, that's happening, not all the time, depending, they gotta be on the move
Yeah.
and watching big things, but, some of the folks, they like getting out of the UTV and patrolling that area especially, and having a little FaceTime with folks anyways. So that's a good thing. Glass, I know we've had the glass discussion over and over. Myself, I struggle when I'm in the SUV and catching it, but Deputy Chief Childers, he's a glass hawk. He'll see glass 100 yards away and be like, I'll be back in a minute. And I think that goes sometimes for all the beach patrollers. Some catch it somehow, something with our eyes, I swear. But there is probably thousands of glass bottles that the beach patrollers catch. I could walk down there and just randomly walk and catch glass that a UTV just drove by and didn't see it. Whether it's sun glare or seeing, but I can tell you, because every time I go out there, there's a couple of beach patrollers that'll catch me and be like, hey, I just found a gallon glass jug of whatever and got it off the beach, or there was a big party, a cooler, or a glass bottle. So and we can all walk out there and find glass probably. It's, an education thing, but there's a lot of glass getting taken off the beach. And then the other thing you mentioned, the dogs, I would reiterate the fact that most of us in the town and town residents know there's a dog ordinance, and from what time of year, time of day on the Strand. Many times it's I think the challenge is the residents when they take a dog down or try to get a dog out there when most of us know that it's not permitted at certain times. It's also pretty obvious when it's in the middle of July at noon and there's a family that walks down the gazebo boardwalk with 2 dogs. They're not from here and have no clue about the dog ordinance, and we go up and address it and they take it off. So I think the ordinance changed. I think that might have helped a little bit too, letting folks have a little bit more time in the morning. But we try to catch dogs. Actually, a couple citations were wrote for dogs. I know Deputy Chief Adams addressed a dog or an owner of a dog at one point, and then a couple hours later he saw the same guy, and the guy knew it was coming. So we try to take the education standpoint, but every now and again there's some enforcement more.
Yeah.
So
I would dare say that I probably spend as much time or more time walking up and down the beach throughout the course of the season than the rest of the council. And as a general observation, I would say, work a little bit more on the training and on consistency of guidance so that all of the beach patrol personnel, are aware of what should be enforced and that it is of a concern. Having said that, my point being that we can always do a little bit better. I think the beach patrol and the fire department support of the beach patrol this year has been absolutely outstanding. I mean, a lot of challenges, a lot of people, and they did a very good job. But like everything else, we have to, keep driving on. So, thank you.
Absolutely, I agree. And some of the standard operating procedures, training, this year was a little funky at the beginning. Those are all things, and Deputy Chief Adams is already working on improving the training program and working on that moving forward. So,
one of the things we need to anticipate is that COVID will not go away, and so the safety and precautions that our beach patrol take need to be, make sure we review that and we got that well under control, as an area of emphasis. That's just for the safety of everybody involved in this process.
Yep, we're staying on top of that now with the fire staff and even law enforcement, and beach patrol. As it gets ramped up, we'll see what guidelines the CDC gives us and the general public in general, and kind of follow that. So,
Good.
I have a glass question.
sure.
So you see some there with a cooler full of glass bottles. What do you do? Or even if someone just has a couple,
Take it off the beach.
do you ask them to take it off?
Mm-hmm.
Do they usually comply?
Mm-hmm. Most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Every now and again, somebody's resistive to it, but
That's where Chief comes in.
But, you know, there's been several times I rely on Deputy Chief Adams and Deputy Chief Childers for knowing everything to a T. And when they call me, there's only one more person I'm calling, and that's the police chief. You know, and most people understand that we don't want to create controversy, and we're upholding the ordinances of the town, and most folks we don't have many issues with. We didn't have to call the police department out to the Strand more than a handful of times for different things and help. Most of the time when they were out there, it was for an emergency call or to assist us in other ways. But most of the time, the beach patrol staff they de-escalate the issues very well.
Among other things, they make it a more fun experience for the great majority of the people by the role that they play in terms of serving and protecting us, Beach Patrol.
Yeah, when I speak and Chief Claymore speaks to the group of seasonal employees we bring in, one of the big things I tell not only the fire department but Beach Patrol, our number one job is to take care of people and take care of them, whether they're having an emergency or they need directions or they don't understand something. So we got to take care of people number one, and they do a phenomenal job at that. And you know, we're thankful for the seasonal folks that help us too, because we couldn't do it without them.
Mr. Borman, you got something?
Yeah, question.
Sure.
The life rings, do we know that they've been used by anyone?
I can't confirm or deny that. Do you know any specific? I don't know of any
Just out of
specific
curiosity, I
times.
wonder, just wonder if there's been
Um,
life-saving that's
yeah.
been accomplished with those rings.
I don't know of any specific. There's been a couple that have ended up floating in the water, but
I was gonna ask that too, did we lose any?
this year, knock on wood, we lost very few. It was single digits, right? 5. So,
Last year was 11.
yeah, so it was a few more the year before. It almost seems like it's becoming a part of the backdrop and what people expect now on the beach, that they're there. And I see a lot of photos being taken with the life rings in the background, and so people realize they're out there, and
Yeah.
if needed, there's
No, it's
something
a good
to
thing,
throw.
I think, to
Yeah.
have them out there. One other question about the emergency services. Did we have any call for them to come to the east end? Where we had to access the emergency access path there?
We did not use it at all year. Was there calls out that way? Emergency EMS and water rescue calls? Yes.
So it would have been better to have more ready access to that?
Yes. We probably would have used it on a couple of occasions, especially with water rescue related calls where access, and it's not only on the east end, the west end as well. If we
Right.
had a direct shot from Main Street to the Strand on either end with a pickup truck pulling a jet ski, would reduce the response time, because going out the gazebo and all the way to either end
Sure. Yeah. It's a
on
long
a
way.
busy summer day, we can't. There's a lot of people to watch for and pulling a jet ski, and so. But yes, access on either end would be beneficial.
So we should really get that resolved. that access point.
If, it,
It's up to the cats on the
Yeah.
lawyer on that deal.
I think that's
beyond his
I think that's
yes.
above me.
control.
That's our problem, not your problem.
But I would, I think from emergency response standpoint, access on either end, the east and west end, would help our operations.
I wasn't implying that it was a fire department issue.
Okay.
If, how much more time did it take in emergency response to get to the east end of the beach with that access being blocked?
So I can't answer that fully or directly. It's from the pier gazebo to Tubbs Inlet's about 1.4 miles. Okay. There's a lot of variables. Number of people on the strand.
Right.
Anybody walking in the emergency lane as we're going out. Are we pulling a jet ski? The sand texture, whether it just rained and we can drive a little quicker, or we're fishtailing with the jet ski. So there's a lot of variables, but going down Main Street to the emergency access versus gazebo down the strand to Tubbs Inlet down that way, it's minutes. You know, it takes a good bit of time to get down the strand sometimes.
Thank you.
I don't have anything else.
I got something for you.
Sure.
Because I was asked this all the time when I was out there. I wasn't walking like he was, but I was actually out there sitting and watching. But do you have any recommendations around the pier? I know everybody just congregates right there to that water. It's not so much about sitting under the pier, because I understand some of our elders can't be out in the sun. But as far as people going in there, because numerous times this year when I've been out there, I've seen people get stuck under there. I mean, it puts our citizens, our visitors, and also our patrol in danger trying to get out there. And then you sit up there and you watch people that's sitting there fishing, and then they're swimming right there at them. Of course, that goes back to the sharks and everything else as far as water creatures. But do you have any kind of recommendations there, or anything that you would like to see implemented or tried to be implemented in that maybe could help us in the future?
So that's tough as well, because if we block off a section under the pier and by the water, I don't think that's going to go over well. The signage on the pier is actually, with don't swim near the pier and some warnings, is actually very well. We put that on Facebook, social media, and share that from time to time. Some of the foot patrols that happen on busy days when it's loaded up around the pier, we pass out water safety brochures and specifically go out there and try to address that. There's also times when it's a little bit rough and there's kids out swimming near the pier that we specifically go down there and try to make contact with parents and kids and pull them away to prevent some of those. But I'm not sure there's 100% solution. We try to educate and pull people back and do that as much as we can, and we'll try to do it, even more in the future. We can think about it a little bit more, but it's a challenge. It gets loaded up down there, and there's been several people that got pulled off the pilings all scraped up because of the barnacles this summer. And it's a powerful force of Mother Nature around that pier.
Just anything that we can come up with to help it in any way, I think would be a help. Somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, it's accident waiting to happen. Somebody's going to get shark bit. It's going to happen.
Yep. It's already
I mean,
happened.
it's what I say. We just, we got to do what we can do. Because I just get asked that all the time. I mean, and I see it, because I usually sit in the vicinity of that.
Yep.
But it's definitely a problem out there. I just hate to see somebody get hurt. But if you come up with anything, please bring it back.
Yeah,
to us.
we'll do it. The only other one of the recommendations I know we've talked about too, that for council to consider, is adding part of the ordinance to ban full-size shovels with the holes that are being dug. We'd like to mirror it with some of the other beaches in the area that limit it to plastic play type shovels would be one of our recommendations moving forward. And myself or Deputy Chief Adams can work on some of that if it's something you want to consider. To hopefully cut down on some of the holes too, because every night Beach Patrol is filling in holes, and if we can eliminate some of the big ones that we don't catch or that are being dug.
Definitely some talented ditch diggers out there.
Yeah, and, you know, it's twofold on not only that's what the Turtle Patrol are worried about, turtles getting stuck in the bigger holes, and we try to fill them in, but also people walking, it's a hazard. And then late at night, if we don't catch one and hit it with a SUV or something out there, something's gonna break.
I think that's a good thing to pursue. Get rid of those big shovels out there. And I've stepped into a hole at night walking on the beach, and you know, it really jars you. And this wasn't recently. This was probably at least 10 years ago.
Work up a proposal.
Yeah, we
This
can.
is my view.
We can draft something up for you to consider and work with Lisa to get it in a future meeting and go from there on it.
Does anybody else have any questions for the chief? Joe, Chief, we appreciate everything y'all do for us.
Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief.
Moving on next, we have the appointments for the various boards and committees. Miss Lisa Anglin, our Assistant Town Administrator, this is your.
Thank you, Mayor. You all interviewed 8 candidates last Thursday and Friday, and now I'm asking for you to make the 6 appointments. 2 for the Planning Board, 2 for the ABC Board, 1 for the ERC, and 1 for the Fireman's Relief Fund Board.
I want to say that we had great candidates, and you don't really want to get rid of anybody that has served the town and wants to continue serving the town. And hopefully we can work something out where we can keep these people, maybe having to juggle in some of them, like between the Planning Board and the ERC.
I have a question. Lisa, if we went, you know, one of the options might be that we create a vacancy by our choice of how we shuffle people around. Are we able to backfill that if a candidate is available?
You can.
That we've interviewed?
You can.
Thank you.
May I make some suggestions?
Please do.
Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
For the Planning Board, we would reappoint Ron LeBruno. We would move Don Eggert back to the ERC, which he is willing to do. We would move Pete Larkin from the ERC to the Planning Board. Then the Planning Board, we would keep John Farrell, reappoint him.
No.
No, the
No.
ERC.
ARC, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
ERC.
Sorry about that.
Got it.
And move Don Eggert from Planning Board back to the ERC. For the ABC Board, we would reappoint Herb Tinger. We would add Katie Bordeaux, and that leaves Roy Cundriff out. And it's a shame we don't have have a place for him. Katie has such vast experience in the ABC. Those are my suggestions.
Fireman's Relief.
Oh, I'm sorry. John Cook, we would continue with him on the Fireman's Relief Board. He has a lot of experience and does a lot as a volunteer firefighter.
I make a comment?
Go ahead, sir. Yes, sir.
We had another person, Renee Corick, identified, but she did not make it to the, she was out of town. And I think that the idea would be to suggest that she apply again next year, next time we have a vacancy, and we have a chance to talk to her and meet her.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Mr. Phillips, you got anything?
I want to say I really like the idea of having Mr. Larkin on the planning board, and hopefully, again, Katie's experience will help us out.
Ms. Harris, you have anything to add?
I agree with the proposed.
Okay. That being said, that would be on the planning board. We would be putting Mr. Pete Larkin, and also on the planning board would be staying with Mr. Ron. What is his last name? LeBruno. Then on the ERC, we would be moving Mr. Don Eggert from the planning board to the ERC to take the position that is actually will be left vacant due to Mr. Larkin's moving to the planning board, and readmit Mr. John Farrell to the ECR or ERC board. Fireman Relief Board would be John Cook, who is already serving there, who is also our fire marshal in town. And on the ABC board would be reappointing Herb, is it Tingler?
Tinker.
Okay. And also we'll be adding Miss Katie Bordeaux. Okay. That is the proposal. If there's no further questions or comments, discussion, then does anybody want to make a motion that we accept these names to be these board members?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Next up will be the island parking discussion. Councilwoman Harris, this is your thing here, so you now have the floor.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I have asked a gentleman who lives in our community, who works for a parking company, to come give us some ideas of how they may work. You know, we've talked about whether or not to go with paid or not paid parking, but I think this gentleman can clear up some misconceptions maybe we might have about that. And I'm just offering this as an option. And he's been waiting to speak for a little while, so I want to go ahead and get him.
Okay.
First, his name is Daryl Hovey.
Cindy, will you see Mr.?
Yes, he's
Okay.
I'm sorry, Dan.
What's his
last
name?
Daryl Hovey, Hovey. Hi, Daryl. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. You mind if I take this off?
That's fine. We can hear
Okay.
you better. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Councilwoman Harris asked me to come by today and talk to you guys about maybe some parking solutions that you guys are having trouble with. Some of the parking zones and possibly some paid parking. And I'm not representing anyone. I'm just here to give you what knowledge I have about the parking. So,
Can I ask where your knowledge comes from? I know you're not representing any company or anything.
no problem. I work for a company in North Myrtle Beach handling their parking enforcement. Thanks. And,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I think the biggest problems you guys are having, is it more of people just parking where they want and not obeying the no parking zone signs and that type of thing?
Seems to be one of the problems, but I don't know that that's their major problem, but that is something that we see some.
Okay. Because if you went to a paid parking system and you had someone there enforcing it and being visible, constantly riding through the zones, I think it would really help that problem. When people see an officer or someone that of authority or has a sign on their truck or car, they tend to follow the laws a little better. The fines down there are $25. If it's not paid within 30 days, it escalates to $75. And there's ways of collecting after that. But the main goal is not really to generate revenue from ticketing. They want to generate revenue from parking, people actually paying. And part of our job is to educate the people about, how it works. They use two systems down there, but I think these are
in Myrtle Beach.
In North Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach that you're talking about. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's from Windy Hill all the way up to the point. So it's quite an area. But we use an app down there called Passport Parking, and there's a few other apps too that do basically the same thing. But it works well for off-street parking and parking lots as well. So a car pulls in, there's signage, $2 an hour to park. You download the app on your smartphone and enter your license plate number, the zone number of what parking lot you're in, and then you choose how many hours you want to park. So it starts with 1 hour, which is $2, and you can go all the way up to a full day. It's from 9 to 5, I think, is what they enforce. So after that, it's free to park. And use a credit card or debit card in the app to pay, and it works very well. Some people just don't see the signage, and if you talk to them when they pull in, you can explain, what the deal is. You're going to have that with if you go to that paid parking with the local residents and people that have been coming here for a long time. You're going to have people ask those questions, about the parking, obviously. But yeah, it works very well. Of course, you're going to need somebody to enforce it.
Who does your enforcing?
We have 5 employees that travel. They're split up into sections, just because it's quite an area down in North Myrtle Beach, and they drive from lot to lot. And there's also shoulder parking in North Myrtle across the street from the beach access lots. And they started enforcing that this year. Last year is when they started the paid parking program in all the lots. And it's working pretty well. Most people read the signs and they pay. You have occasional ticket, but like I said, it's not about writing tickets. I mean, it really is about getting people to understand the parking and pay for it. So, yes.
Question? Mm-hmm. Have you looked at our situation here in Sunset Beach and made any judgments as to how that type of a system could be applied to our island, which has a different scale scope,
sure.
roadway system than down in North Myrtle Beach?
And that ultimately would be up to you as far as where you actually wanted the paid parking to be, shoulder parking, that type of thing. You have one parking lot right where the gazebo is that you could put up a machine if you wanted to. Most people, not most, some people are more comfortable using a machine, paid parking meter, but you would only need one instead of putting one in front of every spot. These new machines work very well. Same basic principle, put in your license plate number and stick the ticket on the dash. It gives you a paid receipt. You just put that on the dashboard, and you can have somebody just walk by and see if there's a paid receipt on the dashboard and what time it expires. That wouldn't work as well on the shoulder parking if you went to paid on that. That's where the app would come in and work a lot better. Because you wouldn't be able to put machines in a convenient place unless you bought a lot of them, and that's not financially very smart, I don't think. But
So somebody would have to use an app, pay on the app. Okay. And how would the parking spots that are on the shoulders be identified?
with signage, and I've noticed there's quite a few signs on the shoulder already, so it would just be added to an existing pole. Under the no parking from here to driveway, or no parking in front of driveway, or whatever it says. You could place a sign just under that.
You talk about y'all use 5 in the North Myrtle Beach system. From where you've been involved in this, and I take it's not just been a short time. So, what do you think, an island like ours? What would it take? How much manpower would it take to do that one?
I think one person could definitely handle it, but you would need someone else qualified or trained in it, in case vacations and time off. Sure. But one person could definitely handle it, I think.
Basically, be a one-man activity throughout each day.
Yeah, when it gets slow, I've handled the entire North Myrtle Beach area before. So
down there, do they just do from Memorial Day to Labor Day?
They do.
Or so there is a certain zone and a certain time zone.
It's March 1st to October 31st,
Okay.
so it's a little bit past and before, but it is seasonal. I don't know. I'm not really sure about the amount of volume you're going to have here in the off season either. Probably not as much, but.
And you basically said it's a 9 to 5 thing.
It is. It's enforcement.
What do you do in a situation where if there's somebody already parked there in those parking places? I mean, is it at 9 o'clock, if they've been sitting there and at 9 o'clock it comes up and it's time for everything to start working? How does that work?
Well,
say they're out on the beach and they're not in their car and your car's there. What do we do in that situation, or what do y'all do in that situation up there?
What we do is we go, and this was done even prior to COVID, but you'd go by and all the lots and wipe down the machines every day with some kind of a sanitizer, and it's got a glass screen, so you clean that off and get all the sand and residue off of it, and walk around the lot with a bucket and a picker and pick up some litter and stuff like that, and just be visible. Usually give them at least an hour, because a lot of people will go to the beach early in the morning and just not pay attention to what time it is, and they'll come back at 9:30, and we don't want them to walk off the beach, and especially local residents, and get a ticket. Which brings me to another point. The local North Myrtle Beach residents do get a decal for their car. They get 2 actually for their cars, so they don't have to pay. So that would be something you may want to consider if you do this. So the locals, because they are paying taxes here, and they should have a chance to park for free. So.
Question, sir?
Yeah,
Since much of the parking that we have here is what you're calling shoulder parking.
Yeah.
So we don't identify spots, but so if someone comes down and they want to park in a spot, wherever it is, and they use the app on their phone, the only way that you have to know that they've paid is by their license plate.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if someone comes and they park and they don't use the app, you've got to have someone driving around with a list of the license plates that for the people that have paid, and the ones that haven't paid, then they won't show up on your list. Is that how you do it?
Right, exactly. So when we pull into a parking lot, we put a zone number in, because there's so many different lots down there. Every lot has a different zone number. You put that information in, and everybody that is paid in that parking lot, or that shoulder parking, or wherever it is, shows up. Their tag number shows up. If they didn't pay, it's not going to show up, obviously. So that's how you know. It's a good system. It works very well.
Now, is your system revenue neutral? In other words, are you making money off it with the 5 people that you've hired, or?
The company from what I understand, the company gets 100% reimbursed by the city. So everything that they come up with a budget in the beginning of the year, and what they need, they get reimbursed by the city. Everything over that goes back to the city. And I think they had a revenue of about 800,000 this past year, and they only billed the city for not quite 500,000. So, the city was able to.
So they made money off it.
The city does. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
well,
Yeah, but I don't think they expected it to be that successful, honestly. So they really are pleased with the program. So
How many parking spaces are included in that North Myrtle Beach plan?
there's probably it's a few thousand at least, maybe more. I don't know exactly how many, but I mean, if you've ever been to North Myrtle and seen all those, each beach parking lot can hold from 10 to 40 vehicles. And then all the shoulder parking too as well, which is, you only see that getting filled up around holidays like the 4th of July, Labor Day, Memorial Day. Those get filled up and very busy. So.
Something to think about.
Anybody else got any questions? Sir, we appreciate you taking time out of your day
No
and bringing
problem.
that to us to give us some ideas. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Hovey.
I have one more
Go ahead.
thing.
Okay.
Your 5 employees, they give out the ticket and they collect the money?
No.
They don't collect the money?
No money is exchanged with the ambassadors. The money is either sent, you can pay it online, or you can send a check in the mail to the city. And,
For the tickets,
For the tickets,
right?
yes.
But you are the ones that issue the tickets?
Absolutely. We carry of course, the handheld that shows us who's paid and who hasn't, and then there's a printer that we carry on a belt that prints the ticket.
And you also give tickets for violation, like for a tire on the road, or
Absolutely.
somebody parked in an area that they aren't supposed to park. For instance, if it's a no parking street and somebody's parked there?
Yes. In fact, that was one of the reasons that they went to this, because it was getting so out of control down there. People were parking in the median on the big Avenue Boulevard, and it got dangerous. It really did.
Right.
And people parking facing traffic on the wrong side of the street. When they go to pull out, a bike could be coming by and they wouldn't see it, and
Right.
have accidents. So
And you guys are visible the full time that
yes,
paid parking is in effect?
Yes, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's marked parking enforcement on the door of the vehicle. So, in North Myrtle Beach, of course. But so when you pull in, it's you pull into a parking lot and everybody looks and they're like, "Oh, I got to go pay," so they run up to the machine real quick. But yeah, it works very well.
Yeah.
So.
So you really do some enforcement of the parking regulations?
Yes, to take that burden off of the police, it really has helped them tremendously.
Okay.
Because they were getting a lot of calls from residents and people parking wherever. They don't pay any attention to people's personal property or anything. So
Right.
Sometimes they need some assistance with that.
Yep. Another question then.
Mm-hmm.
Did the town have to hire additional staff to handle the processing of these tickets? If 800,000 in fines were taken in at $25 a pop, that comes out to 32,000 tickets given in the course of a year.
Yeah, that's not tickets. That's paid parking and ticket revenue. That's a combination of everything.
Combination of both.
Yes.
Okay. So
that basically
the revenue is incurred, the company keeps track of how many people pay parking and then periodically sends a check to the town?
the checks come to for the ticket revenue comes to the company I work for, and then it goes into an account that's held by the city. So I don't know how all that works. I'm not on that end of it, but I do know that both the city and the parking company I work for get the revenue. So, and then they, like I said, they go from the company just
So basically
requests.
work off
it-
a contract. what you
It's a
said, right?
contract, basically, absolutely, and it's 100% reimbursed. If they buy an ink pen, it's reimbursed by the city, so.
So it sounds like that the city does not have to increase staff to handle this. It's just one contract, so,
Yeah, if you already have somebody that's handling, I don't know where it would be.
Revenue would come, I guess, straight into
basically-
like Tara's office would be.
Yeah, I mean, Public Works Department handles it in North Myrtle Beach, so somebody that works in there that takes payments can handle that, so. And there would also be a phone number on the back of the ticket. If somebody had a question about why they got a citation, they could call that number. Now, how it works down there is they don't call the city. They call, a representative of their company, and we explain what happened and why they got a citation. So that would take any burden off of the city to have to deal with that too. So
Let me ask you this, since you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
On the signs, like you were talking about, say your company was here, or how y'all do it down there. If a citizen had somebody parked in front of the yard and it was illegal parking or whatever, is there a number that calls to y'all, or do they have to go through the police department and then be dispersed to y'all?
no, it's there's actually phone numbers on the signage. So
It's direct to y'all guys?
Yes.
Or your company?
right,
And then y'all make it. So that leaves the police department out with having to be tied up to try to okay.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, it really took a big burden off of them, and they thank us constantly when they see us out patrolling because they have other things to deal with that are much more important.
Yes, sir.
So,
Now, are those citations state enforced? In other words, if someone has a citation and they say, I'm not going to pay it, what will the repercussion be?
they're still ironing that out, actually. If it's not paid in 30 days, it goes from $25 to $75. And
But the
then-
enforcement,
And then I don't know if they handle, sometimes they hire I think they were turning it over to a collection agency after that. And then now they're talking about maybe applying it to people's, if they live in the state of South Carolina, taking it out of their income tax returns. So.
okay, thank you.
Just another thought.
Well, thank you again for your information, taking the time to come in.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
You too.
All right, Ms. Harris, what else you got?
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to give you a little history of our Main Street. We did not have parking on Main Street in Sunset Beach until 1986. And prior to that time, the town was mostly just the island and a narrow strip here on the mainland. And then in the early 80s, Oyster Bay Golf Course was built. And in one of the Golf Digest, Oyster Bay Golf Course was named the #1 new golf course, which drew a lot of people here. And Sea Trail eventually came into being during that time, the mid-80s, and was ultimately annexed into the town. I just wanted to let y'all know that Main Street at one time had no parking, and our police department did give out tickets for that. Also, we did not have the gazebo parking lot back then. The gazebo parking lot came into being because some private citizens or Sunset Beach taxpayers filed a lawsuit for the right-of-way all the way to the ocean as it had shown on the original plat. They won that lawsuit, and that's how we turned that area into the gazebo parking lot. It is a right-of-way type situation, and you can't change the configuration of that gazebo parking lot. You've got to keep it as if it were a street, a right-of-way street going to, because if you change it, then depending on what you change, it could revert back to the original owner, because it is just a right-of-way easement. It's not ownership of the property. So an attorney could explain that better, I'm sure, but I wanted you to know a little bit of the history about how we came to be in the situation we are right now. As far as options goes, we have an option of possibly going to some kind of paid or combination thereof for what we have. I don't know. I'm just sitting here offering suggestions, options. I'm not saying I'm for one or the other. I'm just trying to make you aware that we do have some options. I'm sure you, council members, as well as I, have had complaints from many people. I've had letters from people on Main Street. We've had letters from people complaining about North Shore Drive West being a safety issue. We have a lot of complaints saying that Main Street is a safety issue, and not just from oceanfront, but from people and even tourists that are renting further back in the island. That getting across Main Street is very difficult during the summer months. I'm not talking about. Yes, I agree. We don't have a problem in the off months. Another problem that we have with what we've got now is we have no time limit on when somebody can park. And for instance, on North Shore Drive West, there's a lot of residential homes on North Shore Drive West. North Shore Drive East does not allow parking. The parking committee recommended that the parking committee of 2010 recommended no parking on North Shore Drive, period. But the council did approve parking for North Shore Drive West, and it's becoming a hazard to especially where North Shore Drive West meets Sunset Beach Boulevard. There's a problem with bicyclers, golf carts, and cars parked, and when you try to get out onto Sunset Boulevard, it's very difficult to do. The Main Street, of course, people are worried about the safety of children, even the safety of bikes falling or doors opening into the bike path. I've heard lots of people say that when you open the door and the bicyclers aren't paying attention, that they don't know that the door is going to open, and it's a safety issue. Also, as the gentleman spoke, cars are parking all the way up to a driveway, and I believe we have on our books an ordinance that requires a certain number of feet set back from a driveway, And that's not what's happening on these streets where we're allowing parking. My concern is, should someone get injured, and as the gentleman said, we're responsible, the town could be sued. I mean, in a big way. And I'm concerned about that. I obviously have not done a good job in describing to you guys what a workshop is. And it's very difficult to do in this type of setting, to have back and forth. I don't know how anybody feels about looking at the safety issues on Main Street and limiting the hours of parking on Main Street. There's just a number of issues that we need to look at. And I would like to hear some discussion. I personally think we need to do some things, but it's up to the council, and I think we need to discuss it.
Are you done?
Well,
We're done? We're going
Never
to.
finished.
Well,
yes, yeah, well, yeah.
I thought you were. You asked for the
Yes,
council.
yes, I was.
If you're not done, go ahead. Please.
No, I'd rather it be this way.
The safety issue on Main Street and North Shore, I've never heard of any incidents there. Chief Clemmer, if you know, how many accidents between bicycles and car doors, or cars and pedestrians, or bicycles and pedestrians, any type of safety issue has there been on any part of Main Street or North Shore Drive West?
West.
I've been taking copious notes and I've got a lot of comments, but I'll just address this right now. None. We haven't had any. I've done searches as far back as our system would allow when we've had these conversations in the past about the safety. I believe it came up originally when the sidewalks were being installed, about people on the sidewalks and the safety with cars parking in between the right-of-way and the sidewalk. I searched as far back as I could, and other than people, as a result of their own error, injuring themselves, we've been very fortunate, and again, I'm going to touch wood, that we haven't had any. This summer was no different. Sir?
I'm aware within the last month after the summer season that there have been 2 bicycle accidents in the bicycle lanes. I've suggested that people call you, and they chose not to. One of them was bicycle riding along in a bike lane. Somebody popped open the car door. Guy smashed his bicycle, got hurt. The other one was a maintenance truck parked on the edge with a wood extending out past the bike lane, and the bicyclist went by and didn't see the wood, didn't have a flag on it, and got whacked in the head.
I'm sure there.
I mean, and so there are more. I mean, there are
sure.
more. It is a.
I'm sure it's all over town. And
it is a safety problem.
We don't know about it. There are definitely some concerns up and down Main Street, but unless there's any other immediate questions,
The gentleman was was it Bonds? I didn't quite get his name that spoke.
That was
Daryl.
Hovey, H-O-V-E-Y.
No. The gentleman spoke during public comments, the Main Street resident.
Did you get his name for sure?
Jeff Bonds.
Bonds.
Okay, I did have it right. I understand his complaint about people parking right at the edge of his driveway. And yes, there is a certain distance you have to park away from a driveway. Some of the driveways on Main Street are the width of the property, or almost the width of the property, which brings back something else that was in some of these emails or parking committee minutes that you sent us. I think one thing we'd have to look at is the width of the driveways. Some way to mark it so the police don't have to get out and with a tape measure to see if it's that close. Then, I mean, there's got to be an easier way to figure it out. And then definitely issue tickets for that. I do not see doing away with parking on Main Street in any way. I just have to wonder, these emails you sent us, or you had Lisa pull, they're only among a few people. Former council member Terry Johnson, Rich Serrato, Sue Weddle, Richard Hildeman, Jim Thomas, and yourself, Chan. Reading some of the things that are said in those was, well, I won't go any further with that.
May I reply to that?
Yes.
Those emails weren't sent to you as complaints. They were put in there because they offered information. For instance, the formula that the Corps of Engineers uses in order to determine whether or not a beach is providing sufficient public access to the beaches before they'll do a beach renourishment project. They have a formula for that, and that's explained in some of those emails. I put that in the packet for information purposes only. I was not putting it in as a complaint.
I'm just saying that information is in there, but again, some of the things that are said in here, no, I won't go any further with that. But the parking report was from 10 years ago. The parking committee recommendations are from 5 years or longer ago. Sunset Beach has changed, and I don't see where any of this is relevant at this point.
May I ask a question of whoever might have the answer? How many, well, let me preface this. What I'm hearing from citizens is that they want the parking to be handled in a safe method and to be legal. In other words, if we're violating laws, state laws or whatever, fire laws, for instance, at fire hydrants, whatever, there are people on the island that live there full time. They have a mailbox. They should be entitled to a mailbox and access to their mailbox. I don't believe those requirements are being handled. But in any case, I would like to know how many parking spaces that we allow parking right now. How many do we have?
Ms. England, you should be able to answer that question. I think you have, or Dustin, they've been working on that. I think they have that count together for us.
I saw it. We have it.
Yeah,
It's
she
in the
got it
packet.
together.
There it is. Do you want to take mine?
Has it got the number in it?
Yeah, it's the whole parking survey. We all have it.
When Todd Rademacher was still here as planner, me and him took a ride around the island and looked at all the streets that were legally that you could park on. For Main Street,
Dustin, I'm sorry, will you tell them what packet page number that
Oh,
is?
okay.
Just to make
Yes.
sure everybody's on the same page.
packet page 53.
Yep.
Everybody? So as we rode the island, and like I said, every street that you could park on, we come up with that on Main Street East was 148. East Canal Oceanside was 59. North Shore East Oceanside 29.
We can
No.
read those.
Okay.
My question, what's in the number in the parentheses? You've got 148, then 296.
I don't know what I don't know what that was with him with that. But what we come up with, what I would look at was 148.
So what he says here is that it's potential parking spaces if the town built and designated individual spaces within the right-of-way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of numbers, this part I don't understand. The number of potential parking spaces on the island is between 753 and 1,428. That doubles that 753 number. And I realize they're estimates.
The difference is if you delineate every parking space on the island, then the
Yeah.
parentheses numbers come into play. But with the parking sitting as it is right now, you're looking at the 700 number.
Yes.
Okay.
So my question now is, now that we have these numbers that Ms. Harris asked for, now that you know the number, what's your suggestion? Is that too many places? Is that not enough places?
I can't answer that question.
So,
Well, let me, I live on North Shore Drive West. My lot is 50 feet wide. I have a mailbox that sits next to my neighbor's mailbox so that the postal can make one stop. It's at maybe 2 feet from the lot line. I have a driveway that's not 20 feet wide, but I am allowed a driveway that's 20 feet wide. You subtract 20 feet from the 50 feet, that leaves you 30 feet. I'm not sure what the post office requires for you to be able to drive up to the mailbox, but I think it's 15 feet. You don't have room to put a car in the right-of-way on my property, legally. But I've had cars parked in the right-of-way on my property. That's the concern, and that's the concern that residents have. And I do know that the oceanfront people have a really hard time getting out of their driveways in the summertime.
so what I would like to say to that is, it may be unpopular. People who want to be able to walk to the beach can choose to live on the island. Part of that comes with that is other people coming to the beach. So they have to deal with that. There are other people that wouldn't want to deal with the traffic and the summertime noise, so they may choose to live on the island, or on the mainland, sorry. So life is about choices. If you choose to live over there, having people park in and around your property is going to be part of the process, in my view, okay?
May I respond to that?
Are you finished?
Additionally, just so we can clear the air on all this, I don't think buying a plot of land for 50 spaces, paying $500,000 for it for 50 spaces is going to be a solution if anybody wants to do more parking, because there's going to always be 51 cars. I was able to go down to the beach 4th of July week almost every morning and find this parking spot without a problem. So I just want to get that clear the air. Another concern I have is with these emails you sent us, very often there's somebody's name at the top that's been redacted. I'd like to know who that name is. And if you're, in my mind, if you're not willing to tell us who that is, I don't feel like if there's information without a source here, that it should be part of the public record.
I did not redact any email names.
We can also,
That's not the email sender's name.
No, but there's something redacted on the paper.
That's
more
who
than,
made a copy for me.
so from my view, if names have been redacted and you're not going to be able to tell us who it is, it should not be part of the public record. I also agree
Take it out.
with Mr. Nern that a lot of this information is 10 years old or longer. And so we have these surveys from other towns that there's no date when these surveys were completed. So from my perspective, I don't see parking being an issue that needs to be addressed right now. You're the one who put it on the agenda. You have raised numerous questions, but you've provided no solutions to this point.
That's what I would hope the council as a whole would work on, is solutions. Not me providing the solution, but the council as a whole, recognizing that we have problems and we have citizens that are writing us letters and complaining. I'm not talking about the letters that are in that packet. I'm talking about complaints. I have come to my government email. None of those are my government email.
Well, then why didn't you choose to include those versus these emails going back and forth?
I chose those because they gave you information about things that apply to the island.
What I think is lacking here is a clear understanding of what are the problems that we're trying to address. To say that we want to discuss parking problems without defining what the problems are. There's lots of information here about people complaining about things, but the extent of the problem has not really been defined. So I don't know how to propose a solution for something that I don't understand what the problem is.
Okay. I can tell you what problems people have brought to me. I don't know what problems people have brought to each of you.
Go ahead.
Last year and this year, for an extended period of time, you have demanded that the council conduct a workshop, and you wanted to put the workshop together. At the last meeting, I asked if we're going to do a workshop, and it's your proposal to do the workshop, you should put together an agenda which identifies what are the issues, the concerns, what are the options to consider, or what should we be doing. I mean, there's no sense other than the 33 pages of emails with old complaints that take us where we want to go. I mean, you could lead through a discussion of what we're going to do about enforcement. Are we going to talk free parking? Is it going to be for everybody? Are we at max spaces? If we're not at max spaces, should we go to max spaces or should we eliminate spaces? Does Sunset Beach want to buy land? If we do, where do we buy it? How do we fund it? Who gets to use it? Do we want to do a shuttle service or something like that? If so, is it a town service or is it a private service? What do we want to do in Main Street? Do we want to take over Main Street or not take over Main Street? These are all things, if somebody was asking to have a workshop and conduct it, would kind of put together and be prepared to lead us through a discussion of those types of things, with the idea that there is an objective out there. You know, I agree that there's a problem with parking, but what is the solution that you're trying to get to on that problem? And none of that's been done. So we're rambling through, you went through a couple pages of things. This gentleman from North Myrtle Beach who works for a parking company comes out and tells us about great things about North Myrtle Beach, but there's very little about that that's actually applicable to what we can apply to Sunset Beach. So what is it you want to do this morning, and please lead us through it in a kind of systematic way so we can accomplish something.
Okay, number one, we have people on the mainland who think that they should have a place to park. I, for one, agree with them that they should have a place to park. And I will say this has been suggested to me by a citizen, that an excellent way to handle giving the mainland residents who also pay taxes a place to park on the island would be to make the parking that is on Main Street for tax-paying property owners only.
So the first question comes up, is that legal? Is that something that we can do? I mean, that would be one of the first questions that comes up.
It's legal if you decide to do it. I hear complaints all the time about people on the mainland can't find a place to park.
If I can, I've been here for 10 years, and I've never been able to not find a spot to park. Now, you may not be able to go exactly at the beach access you want to go to at the perfect time you want to go, but you can find a spot to park your car over on the island.
Okay, that's you know, if that's the feeling of the council, then fine. I've tried to put together something so we could discuss the problems, and I mean discuss them, not in such a formal way.
We're having a workshop to discuss things, and that means it should be structured. It should be organized.
This is a formal council meeting. This is not a workshop.
Isn't that what you asked for? For the time to be devoted for you to have a workshop here? That's what you've been demanding.
That's all I could get you folks to agree to. So I have presented. You all have heard the same complaints, I'm sure, that I have. Okay. I could say to you what would be my solution, but I think it's futile for me to do that.
Well, first of all, I agree with Jamie on, I have ridden over here intentionally during the summer. I don't think I ever rode over on the 4th of July, but during 4th of July week I have. A couple different times during the day, and I've always found a parking place. Would it be a place that I would ordinarily choose to park? No. But, you know, we do welcome visitors. And this is a vacation destination, more so now than I think it's ever been. But we can provide a safe beach, but we do not have to provide a parking place for visitors from some other area. There are not enough places to provide parking for every town resident on the mainland. I'm not sure, I mean, it would take a lot more study. I'm not sure that I disagree with your idea of making Main Street permit parking only for mainland residents. But there are a lot of little things that go with that. You know, my neighbors complain to me, I hear complaints. I guess people only send all these emails to you because I don't get as many on the parking issue as you do. Matter of fact, I only had one with this hearing coming up. And that's fine, but how are we to know, the rest of us to know what people are thinking? And when
May I
I'm
respond to
sorry.
that?
Yes, go ahead.
Well, go ahead.
That is why I firmly believe we need to have a professional firm study our parking problems and potential solutions to them. We need somebody that's skilled in that type of analysis of our situation.
But to my
Once
knowledge,
again,
we've
what
still
is
yet to identify the problem.
What's the problem?
I can't support hiring a consultant to try to solve a problem that we can't identify.
We have a tremendous safety problem.
At some level too, people have to take
So
personal
eliminating
responsibility for their actions.
So eliminating parking for non-residents on Main Street isn't going to address the safety problem. And
No, that won't, but enforcing the setback requirements for driveways
right.
and mailboxes and fire hydrants, et cetera.
So that's a different
Would.
problem, and I keep getting back to, what are we trying to address here?
Come on up, Chief.
Okay. Yeah, I have a comment just directed straight at you.
Okay.
You know,
If I may.
okay.
Okay, I'm sorry.
this
7203, just real quick. Talks about within the area designated as a private or commercial driveway in such a manner as to block the driveway and prevent access to the property. There's no requirement for setback under 7203.
That's what our UDO says?
That's what a municipal code says, right? That was a municipal
This is in Municode. Yes, sir.
municipal code. Yeah. Which is different than the building ordinance, the UDO.
Well, I'm talking about our UDO. We have an UDO on the books.
Something I can enforce
Yeah.
is 7203
Yeah.
for blocking.
My point to you, I mean, and this is your recommendations, you know, we have this discussion on a very frequent basis. And the one area that I believe can be addressed is enforcement. And I think somewhere in our discussions, or you mentioned here, you're considering next year what it would take to put a parking patrol on the beach during the peak season, which would be one. My view is I strongly encourage that. My view is year-round, all the time, the rules that we have off the sidewalk, off the bike lane, parking in the direction they go, no double parallel parking, no parking at the fire hydrants, no parking at the corners where the signs go, you know, that whole type of thing is there. A key aspect of sort of my desire to have kind of universal enforcement is the resources to do that. And so the question to you is how do we increase enforcement? And my view is if we are much more, or if we are enforcing much stricter and more often, then that will at least contribute to, I think, some of the safety issues that come up. And I'm beyond my expertise at this point in time. So, yeah, how do we address the enforcement issue?
Well, as you mentioned, we had a previous informal conversation about perhaps simulating what the beach patrol does with seasonal employees just to address parking. We purchased the UTV a few years back with the intention of, when we had the manpower, to dedicate the UTV to the island to enforce specific island-related problems. So whether it be noise, parking, speeding, whatever the complaint was, that person was there. Manpower hasn't allowed us to have that manned 7 days a week throughout the summer. So the seasonal option, being able to hire, train, and give them the vehicle to go out and enforce these things. The UTV is definitely an option depending upon the weather. But again, just hiring the people. And then I definitely, and even the gentleman from North Myrtle Beach mentioned that, you know, our goal is not to say, oh my gosh, look at all the money we made. Our goal is to make sure that people are safe, that people are parking the way they're supposed to be. So if I catch Mayor Phillips getting out of his car and he's parked in the wrong direction on the wrong side of the street, that's an opportunity for me to educate him, say, hey, that's a great spot, but you just need to turn your vehicle around. With parking, oftentimes we're there after the fact. People are already on the beach, they're already where they're at, but putting a slip of paper on the windshield to tell them, hey, do this next time. And sure, it's going to come with a fine, but we are educating. So hopefully if they come back, they park as we expect them to. Hiring the seasonal people on the front end is going to be great. It would be take a lot of load off of our already short staff, but on the back end of it, all of those tickets are going to come in here that we have to process. I have a staff of volunteers that come in as frequently as they're available to help us with the record function, but the majority of the time it's me or the assistant chief that handles that. Phones ring off the hook through the summertime. Well, I parked here and I didn't see a sign. I didn't know I couldn't park on the sidewalk. I wasn't completely blocking the driveway. It goes on and on and on. Who answers those calls? Me or the assistant chief.
So what does it take to process a ticket? Just so that we know. I mean, you know.
First, if it's the civilian that writes the ticket, that civilian's not authorized to run the license plate to find out who owns the vehicle. So a police officer has to do that so the name information can be placed on the citation. Then they have to enter it into the system so that a week from now when somebody calls to complain or somebody calls to ask a question, I have to be able to find a place to look for it. Then that ticket is filed away. When the ticket is paid, the original ticket has to be pulled. You have to go back into the system, mark it paid, so that later on when our folks are sending letters reminding people, hey, you haven't paid your ticket, that we don't send a duplicate to somebody that has already paid. So there is a little bit of a process behind it. And if I have a staff, let's say of 5 people that are going to be out there from Memorial Day to Labor Day and just enforcement, the backside of that is really gonna take a toll. So there'd have to be something on that end as well that's going to help us with that function. And I don't disagree with you. It's not a Memorial Day to Labor Day thing. It's a year-round thing. Just because we're not as jam-packed as we are on 4th of July weekend doesn't mean that there's not people out there right now riding their bicycles and that maybe have to swerve into the traffic because somebody's blocked the bike lane.
Yep. To try and do something with the next budget, we'll be past some of the problem. I would be in favor of a budget amendment to hire people just to do this. Part-time officers, sworn officers, that would just take care of parking. If we have to hire a part-time staff member to take care of all the paperwork involved, then we have to do that. This is the kind of thing that'll solve some of our parking issues. Spending money to buy a lot and then make it into a parking lot for only 50 people that's only used a few months out of the year, mainly a few months out of the year, would cost around $1 million, and that's 6 cents on the tax rate. So I don't think anybody wants that. I think we have to give the chief the tools he needs to do his job. And if that means putting more in the budget for part-time, and we have to remember, for the most part, we have 2 patrol officers on duty at any given time. our police department is undermanned. And parking should be the least of their concerns. That's it.
I'm not proposing that. That's not a proposal coming from me.
That was my proposal.
I'm not talking about the police officers. I'm talking about purchasing a lot.
Why? Yeah, I know. I know it's not yours. But it was pushed and pushed and pushed previously, and for whatever purpose.
I have a follow-up to the chief on the same thing. You mentioned that civilian parking patrol can just write a ticket, but can't do any of the processing, can't do the license plate and stuff like that. They don't have that. What is the prospects for seasonal, part-time, actual policemen?
For the parking, my idea was civilians, not sworn officers.
Okay.
What I've seen historically with my sworn part-time police officers is they want to be sworn full-time police officers. And the minute they get that opportunity, they're going to leave. So we spent a lot of time training and uniforming and getting them acclimated for them to leave. Our part-time employees that have full-time jobs somewhere else are very limited in the amount of time that they want to spend here, especially in the summer. I mean, there's other things going on, and we get them as much as we can. They work minimums that are required by policy, but it's difficult to staff 7 days a week during the busy times.
The other part of that is the work that needs to be done processing the ticket here at Town Hall. Does it have to be a policeman doing that, or could
No, sir.
a paid civilian do that?
A paid civilian could do that. There would just have to be some involvement with a sworn officer in order to get the information that's needed on the citation.
Chief, another question?
Sure.
Yeah.
With respect to the same question John asked. These days where there's so many apps out there that can do just about anything, would there be able to be a software solution or a hardware software solution where, say, a civilian could enter a license plate to a handheld something or other that would then complete the rest of the information that you're talking about?
I don't know of any, not for civilians. I like the app idea. I mean, I don't know that a pay to park is gonna, just my 2 cents, I don't know that a pay to park is gonna fix this problem. A place that people can go and make those payments, we have that currently. You can go to the website and make the payment. So, but there are a lot of people that want to come here. They want to pay cash, they want to write a check, or they want to talk to me to plead their case and see if they can get some sympathy.
Well, I would be interested in hearing a proposal or a plan of how to go about addressing increasing the enforcement, which I believe also increases the education and the awareness, and ultimately would at least take some of the chaos out of the parking.
Sure.
And by doing that, maybe contribute to a little bit more safety in the issue. Be glad to hear what your recommendations are at some point, and you know, which would include, you know, temporary staffing. I don't think like full-time people working in here to handle that type of stuff, but to do that with the idea that if we're doing this during the summer season primarily, it would be something that accommodation tax could be used to do that, rather than direct police funds to do that, when we talk about how we budget it and handle that type of thing.
Sure.
But I think that's one area where we can at least maybe start to make a dent in this issue. Thank you. That's all I have right now.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
That's it.
Thank you.
Does anyone have anything else to add to this discussion today?
Well, I think we have to see where we can do better with enforcement. We have to address the driveway situation on Main Street.
Well, if we address it on Main Street, we have to address it throughout the town, or at least throughout the zoning areas.
Right, where, well, I'm thinking about, the issue comes where parking is allowed.
True, okay.
You know, I'm not sure what we can do legally, whether we leave the numbered streets out and just do Main Street and North Shore and wherever else parking is allowed. That's the type of question that our lawyer can answer. This is, I mean, I don't think parking is a problem per se as far as coming over here and finding a parking place. It might not be where you want, but I still think you can find one. I think the issue is just what we said, enforcement and making sure we make use of the parking places that are actually available.
There is an aspect that has come up. Am I still on?
Tom's hand was on his microphone, and that was.
Oh, okay. In our UDOs, do we still have the code that says 20-foot driveways?
That's in general regulations.
In general,
Yes.
in general regulations. Okay, it's not a UDO, so it's an enforceable regulation. Okay, and how about the signs? We also have signs that are clearly put up and sort of mailboxes and newspaper boxes and other obstacles as ways to prevent people from parking, physically prevent people from parking. Are those, do we do anything about making sure that those are done properly so that they're not just being used to remove people's parking spots? That's something I think, you know, the town could look at. One of the questions, backtracking a little bit on the 20-foot driveways, we clearly have many, many driveways that are exceeding 20 feet. So what would be required, what would we need to do as a council and as a town to go back and get all of that corrected? Could that be done?
You'd have to work with the property owners to delineate where their driveway is with maybe a different color rock or some kind of material that would clearly show that this is the driveway 20 feet for that property.
Is that something that we could mandate and enforce and make happen, or does that open it up to, you know, people pulling out their lawyers and going for grandfathering and stuff like that?
Yes and yes.
All of the above. Okay. So enforcing the 20-foot and removing all of those signs is not particularly an easy or necessarily workable solution, is it?
It can be. You just have to get the property owners buy-in to the program.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. If we expect people to come here and park legally and safely, then I think that we could expect property owners to adhere to the rules as far as their driveways go. I'm not quite sure that parking right up to the driveway, which you can legally do, would be part of the solution. I have no idea what we needed to change that you couldn't park within 5 feet of a driveway or whatever distance would be considered safe.
I'm sorry. Are you looking for a response from me?
No, Lisa, unless you know the answer.
There is a section in the UDO in Article 2, and it is in this packet, that has the site triangles for driveways. That's what I was looking for, but I can't put my finger on it. But it's in your packet.
Yeah. And the question is then, how do we enforce those site triangles? And do we enforce those site triangles?
It's on page 61 of your packet.
That is up to Dustin and the building inspection department as the property is being developed, is where that would come into play. And that would also go back to the delineating where the driveways are.
Yeah. So if we haven't corrected that problem at the time we issue the occupancy permit for that property, then there's really not much we can do about it, is what I'm hearing. Am I hearing correctly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You brought up free parking or paid parking.
That's an option.
Well, the town had Lanier come through with a proposal several years back, and I don't remember the details. I was not on the council then. I did some back of the napkin type of calculations, and to put meters in on Main Street, or rather on Sunset Boulevard and through the gazebo, for the town to make any profit out of this, it would require all of the parking spaces to be utilized by 3 vehicles each day through the course of the summer season to reach the break point that they had in there. And I may be overgeneralizing, oversimplifying, but the point at that part of town is that one, the town at the very basic level, paid parking would cost the town overall. That was number one, and that did not address the impact of putting meters in front of the stores that are between North Shore and Main Street, which would have a negative impact on the businesses who rely on people to come in for 10 minutes, make their purchases, and then turn around and leave, which was a problem with that solution. And it did not, if there was any aspect of property owners who did not live on the island getting a decal and being able to park there would further decrease the income and add to the cost of the town to do it. You know, so at that point in time, there are several driving reasons not to go through the proposal that Lanier did. And I think that was the only company that even responded to our request to do a proposal in there. And so
That's correct.
That didn't go anywhere fast.
Yeah, the council determined at that time that it was not a profitable or a break-even.
Yeah. In my personal view, I think free parking for anybody, first come, first serve, throughout where we have spaces on the island is an appropriate way to go. I would have difficulty delineating all of Main Street as a off-island property owner only with decals solution to doing that. I'm not sure comfortable that it's something that we could actually legally do. I think that there would be problems with that, but my own view is keep everything at free parking and then figure out how we're going to manage and control the free parking.
It is our understanding that DOT will not allow you to place any obstructions into the right-of-way to delineate parking.
In terms of marking off spaces, which would be, well, Councilman Nern's suggestion was all parking on Main Street be for Sunset Beach citizens only? Is that what you were saying? Or as a, not necessarily suggestion, but as something to consider?
Now, that was something I was agreeing with Jan might be a solution. But again, you know, these parking places have to be marked out, or someone will be taking 2 spaces, or if DOT won't let us do that, I don't know what the answer. Could you paint spaces?
I'm not sure it would be an efficient use. Would we have enough mainland residents that would utilize all those spaces? Or would there be a lot open?
That's the other question.
Yeah.
That's where I fall back on Councilman Phillips' suggestion or idea that it should be first come, first serve to everybody.
I agree.
Saying that correctly?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, if Main Street was only for residents, non-island residents, then that would also have to be first come, first served. No one gets a reserved spot, which has been suggested before.
That'll be an enforcement nightmare for the police department.
Does anyone have anything else?
Well, just, we had a mention of buying land for parking lots. And Charlie, you didn't like that idea.
Well, when that was suggested before by a previous council member, everybody knew it wouldn't work. If you buy an oceanfront lot, and the lots that were being talked about, if I remember correctly, 2 were oceanfront and 1 was across the street, which would be second row, I guess. The cost of the lot would have been $500,000. They were close to $500,000. I think they both were like in the 490s. And then you'd have to have a major camera permit to turn that into a parking lot, I believe. You'd have to have engineering. Then you have to have the work done to level the lot. and make it suitable to park on, which would have come to over $1 million. And like I said, I don't want to take $1 million out of the general fund and use it to provide 50, maybe 60 parking places that would only be used or only really be needed during, say, 4 months of the year. If you want to do it by raising taxes, $1 million is 6 cents. I'm certainly not proposing that.
You would also be required to change your UDO because parking lots are not permitted in BR1 or 2. So you would have to start out with an ordinance amendment.
Well, it's kind of easy. We don't have anybody offering to sell us hunks of land that we could use for the parking lots either. And I don't think using eminent domain at this point in time is a course that we would want to go on. There was also at a point in time discussion of taking over, the town taking over Main Street from NCDOT. And my understanding, just to get that out here on the table, my understanding, if we take over Main Street, then we would have flexibility in terms of delineating parking spaces in the right-of-way. However, we would assume total responsibility for Main Street, regular routine repairs, line painting, and stuff like that. And if there's an emergency, if there's a really serious, disastrous hurricane, correct me if I'm wrong in any of this, then we would be stuck with the total repairs for the roads if it was washed out, replaced, or anything else like that. So
that is correct.
A near benefit is the ability to delineate the right-of-ways. A long-term major negative aspect is the regular repair burden, but then the imminent, the potential for a disaster repair requirement. And so I think over the years, taking over Main Street has been turned down.
That is correct.
Okay, and I don't see any reason to change that direction. Unless somebody thinks.
No.
Okay.
Does anyone have anything else?
People have suggested in the past, sorry, you ask.
Go ahead.
Shuttle services, off-island parking, and a either free or paid shuttle to bring people to the island. A couple issues that I see are, one, identifying off-island parking, which would be for the shuttle to run from. We would probably have to buy land somewhere in the Mud District to even come close to making that attractive. And then there's the actual cost of running the shuttle, getting the vehicles, getting the drivers. If it's a free shuttle, then the town would have to pick up the whole cost. If it's a paid shuttle, then it would be hit and miss whether we'd find anybody who would want to run that contract. Are there any other key factors that jump out at anybody's mind on that as a solution?
As of right now, the way the COVID thing's going, you can't even think about nothing like that.
No.
So you couldn't ride with nobody.
Yeah. No, we would need to plan for, hopefully COVID will have some type of a solution at some point in the future. Yeah.
We hope.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I hate
Yes,
to
sir.
interrupt.
Go ahead.
Can we have a short break?
Yes, sir. I actually think we're to this point. If anybody has anything else about parking, if not, we'll move on.
Can I ask one thing? What I'm hearing from you all is that you would like for Ken to prepare a proposal for enforcement of the parking regulations
Safety enforcement,
with
yes.
part-time staff. Is that what I'm hearing from March through October 31st?
I would say yes,
I
ma'am.
say yes to that.
Looking into that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the safety features of it that we definitely need to address.
Don't you need a motion for that?
No, he can bring a proposal back, and then if you can accept his proposal or not at that point.
Anybody got anything else? Not, we'll call for just.
No other actions? Jan? No. Okay.
All right, let's call for just a quick couple of minute break here, then we'll come back.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Charlie. call this meeting back to order. Go ahead, Mr. Councilman Corbett. Said you had one more thing.
Looking through the list of things to talk about in terms of parking, one of the proposals made or discussed at least 10 years ago was to take the numbered streets, make them one way, and permit parking on one side of it. And I just raised that in an effort to get the various topics out that for us to sit there and address and see if we have any views on doing that.
That would mostly pertain to the west end, then, you're saying?
Well, there are some numbered streets on the east end too, that
13th and 5th Street.
one through
Oh, that's true.
1 through 13,
4.
and also 15.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So there would be other streets that could go one way. Did the people that you've talked to have any views on that?
I've heard some views on that, and everybody is opposed to making any streets on the island one way.
Yeah.
And I'm
Even if they would create a whole bunch of parking spots?
I do not believe we should increase parking. We have all the parking we can handle already. We have very, very crowded beaches in the summertime when we have our parking issues. And the island is becoming more and more a second generation development. The island initially was single family homes, one story, when we first became an attraction for tourists. The second generation is increasing the size of the homes, which means more people on the island, especially in the summer when most of the rental properties are rented. I quite frankly think that the parking we have is contributing greatly to our overcrowding of the beach. That's my opinion. And that's just an opinion.
To address John's concerns, I don't think I would support the one-way roads on the island. Back when I thought the one-way streets was a good idea, and people say, "Oh, I'll be so confused." Well, it's just like getting used to the roundabout or that terrible intersection coming onto the bridge before the roundabout was put there. You'll get used to it. There are certainly very few 20-foot driveways where these new houses are being built, because I've got a couple of them across from me. And I don't know. I'm not sure it would work now. Might have worked if we had done it back when.
Well, first I would remind what we tried to do with one-way walkways, how successful that was. But until we reach a point where we say that we need more parking spaces, I think I agree with Jan that I don't know that we have a point where we say we don't have enough parking, that we would consider such a thing. But for the few days here and there that we're really crowded as far as parking goes, I wouldn't be in favor of us changing streets into one-way year-round. just to address those few days.
I don't think, my own personal view is I don't think one-way streets are a workable solution. Even particularly if you put parking on one side, even with one-way streets, you create a tremendous amount of congestion and lack of, I don't know, lack of order, if you will, that creates safety environments, safety hazards. So again, you know, these are points and solutions that have been suggested. And I just want to make sure that we have a chance, we at least talk about it a little bit. I don't think it works either. It seems like we're actually pretty much in agreement as a council.
Cross that off the list.
Pardon?
I didn't say, Charlie did.
I said cross that off the list.
There's not anything else, basically, we.
I have
Go ahead.
one more thing. And this comes from me personally, because I am in a situation where people can certainly park, as of right now, I have a vacant lot next to me, and so it's easy to park on the right-of-way there, and not have to worry about a driveway or whatever, except when they pull all the way up to my driveway, which is close to my lot line. The problem that I have is, and I can't see I can't say that this is happening a lot, but there is a safety issue with the fact that we don't have any time constraints on when people can park. So somebody can park close to my house, walk around behind my house, do whatever, 24 hours a day. I am uncomfortable with somebody parking near my home that I live in full time, being able to park and stay there as long as they want. I don't know who they are. To me, that's a concern. To me, that's a safety issue.
Have you ever been in a situation where you've had to call the police because of somebody who was parked in state?
I called the police one time when they were parked so close to my driveway that I couldn't see to get out. And by the way, in the summertime, I back into my driveway so I don't have to back out of my driveway.
I understand that. That's. But I'm thinking the safety concern that you're raising is somebody trespassing on your property and posing a threat to you. And
well, yes.
Has that happened? Or that?
Well, not to my knowledge.
Well,
but there's always a first time for everything.
I got to say this, that my neighbors on 28th Street, they'll be, I mean, real late at night or early in the morning, see 5 or 6 kids walking around, and they're cutting through underneath houses. And my neighbors yelled at them, and then they just go on up the street. But why do they need to be under a house? When my family or my friends are staying at our house over there, I tell them, lock the door to the storage area underneath and lock your cars. It would just, you know, there's people walk around and they try a door, if it's open, they go in, and whatever's there, if it's worth anything, they take, and off they go to the next house.
That's not a parking issue, though.
No, it's
that's
not a
that's
parking
a trespassing
issue.
and.
But I'm adding to what Jan said. You don't know how many people have looked around under your house.
No, I don't.
I don't know how many have looked around under mine. And I got to think we shouldn't have 24-hour parking.
You all did pass an ordinance a while back that took overnight parking off of public parking lots such as the park, streetscape, and the gazebo.
Yep.
I feel certain that you could include the right-of-way areas on all town-owned streets in that ordinance. I'm not sure about Main Street. I'd have to talk to Grady and DOT to see if we can regulate no overnight parking on their right-of-way.
What
What-
exactly
what it-
is that time, Lisa? I know at night it's like 12 o'clock, isn't it?
12 to
Unless they
6.
change it. I know like this
I
parking
think
over
it's,
here.
I think it's midnight to 6
Yeah,
a.m.
6 a.m.
No
yeah.
overnight parking in those areas.
One of the, I mean, when we start getting into that is particularly during the summertime, we frequently get very crowded homes, beach homes, and people will be in those beach homes and be parking in the right of way just so that the 6 or 8 cars there have ability to come and go. And so,
There's no parking allowed on the right-of-ways, on the side streets, now. So if those overflow houses are parking in the right-of-way, our police officers should be issuing tickets.
like Canal and North Shore and North Shore East, North Shore West. Well, North Shore East is no parking anyway.
I don't think that they included North Shore Drive East in the no parking. And looking at the recommendations, they postponed that discussion. They did no parking on Cobia and North Shore, what I call North Shore Drive Extension, but I don't think they passed anything for East.
Okay, I'm talking about from Cobia. My point is there are places where people would be parking out in front of houses or close to houses that are in the right-of-way areas.
The fish streets are the only right-of-ways. There's nothing from Canal
Main Street,
to the end, Main Street,
Main Street, Canal, from
Cobia.
from Cobia to the east
Oh.
end.
Mhm.
You know, people can park there.
Right.
And routinely during the summertime, people are parked in what we would call the right-of-ways. Yeah, I mean, it's just because of crowding and parking under the house and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not, at this point, I'm not quite comfortable with that we have a good solution. So,
Anyone else?
I did ask Dustin and Todd when they were doing the parking survey to look to see if there was anywhere that they thought that parking could be added to sort of spread the crowd out from the gazebo and the streetscape area. And the only solution that they could come up with is that the small streets that start at 7th or 8th, wherever the little 4 parcel roads are.
yeah, 7th,
If
8th,
there's-
9th, and 10th,
If
and
there's no
11th.
driveways that are coming out on those roads, you could put parallel parking on each side, make that one way and do each side parking was really the only solution that they came up with for, and there's nothing for the west end, but that those couple of small places on those little roads that you could add a few spaces if you wanted to consider that. But other than that, that was the only solutions that they could offer.
Anyone else? All right, moving on to the new business.
Public comment.
Not
New
yet.
business first.
New business,
Oh, I'm sorry.
disposition of directives for our December 7, 2020, or any future meetings. Do we have anything that needs to be added as of now? We have the audit report coming up on the 7th meeting and the planning board recommendation for the 160D. Anything else that needs to be addressed at that meeting right off? If anyone has any,
Are we still, with Todd's departure, are we still pursuing that form-based code? Are we paying Wes McLeod to pursue the form-based code? Put it that
We
way.
are not. All that has been put on the back burner. All 3 items that the planning board is discussing have been put on the back burner until the new planner, who starts on December 3rd, which is actually the first planning board in December. So once he gets his feet under him, they'll pick it up and run with it.
Okay.
Anything else?
And if you would add the parking enforcement proposal from Ken to come back to you all without a date, until I can get with him and see how quickly he can come up with this proposal.
Okay.
I would anticipate a second meeting in January or February at the earliest.
We're going to have, is Robert Neal, Moffitt and Nichols going to come give us an update on where we stand on anything
Yes.
in December?
Yes, he's requested to be on the December 7th meeting and will be.
Okay. Did the sale of the purchase of the land behind the fire station went through, correct?
Yes, sir. We closed Friday and
Okay.
everything
Do we have
is
any
recorded.
follow-on actions that we need to take?
We will have to annex and rezone that piece of property, and I'll be bringing that forward to you as soon as I can get down that far on the list.
Okay. I'd like to add on there, on the next meeting, follow-up to our public hearing. At least I kind of made a commitment to send into the council a list of questions that property owners, affected property owners had asked concerning, and some of the other citizens had asked also. I'd like to send those in, actually with an idea that Moffitt and Nickel and you, Lisa, take a look at them and sort of, if possible, develop answers before the meeting so they can be responded to. And I will try to get those to you by the end of this week.
Okay, I'll just say that depending on Robert and my schedules, it may be the second meeting in December instead of the first, because we've got Thanksgiving in the middle and time may be a little tight.
Well, nobody's going anywhere for Thanksgiving anymore, so. Okay, I mean, that's fine, but we owe answers back. I mean, and I first owe you the questions. Okay.
Where are we on the economic development and marketing director?
Me and Todd were working on that, and I guess I sort of dropped the ball since he left. I'll try to get back up with him because he was the one who contacted the economic developer that was retired, that was going to send me some information. So let me reach back out to him and see if I can move that one along.
Okay. And one more thing. We were supposed to leave for Oregon tomorrow morning. Apparently Susan and I aren't welcome there now. Nobody is. So we had to cancel our trip, and hopefully we've rescheduled. We'll leave the 17th of December and come back on New Year's Day. And of course that's subject to change also. So anytime we have, or we want to set a meeting about the new town administrator, I will now be available.
All right, nothing else? All right, public comments. Do we have anybody in the back, or do we know? We do. They should have a microphone still back there.
Yeah, I've got it.
Time for your public comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment again on this right-of-way.
Name and address, please, again for us.
Bonds, 903 East Main.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
On this right-of-way thing, in talking with the engineer in charge of right-of-way division for DOT, he looked at on the internet some of these landscape timbers, these little pylons that people have put up. And as he told me, as long as those posts would meet the state requirement of breakaway, the state would not require them to be removed. So I guess it's one of these situations where I think the council's got one position and the DOT has a different position on that. So I would ask that that be reconsidered. There is and I understand everybody else does, that there's a woman on the mainland driving a silver BMW that is causing a lot of issue with the lady at 803 East Main, and I do speak for the Earnhardts at this time, because her house was built back in the early 60s prior to all the right-of-way takings. Her last step of her house is only 3.5 feet off of the right-of-way. And this lady with this BMW here just insists on that's where she's going to park. I understand that's where this keeps coming from to y'all's hands. But it's necessary in some of these situations from where you've got people trying to back out of driveways and can't see because of cars crowding their driveway, or in the Earnhardt situation where the house is built well before the right-of-way takings, and that according to the state's requirements, as long as those pylons meet the state requirement breakaway, then they can be there. So I'd ask that the council kind of rethink that thing, or see what they can do about the position there. It all gets back to it's a safety issue, and I don't really think that one person off that mainland would have the rights to create extra work for y'all. It's not like you don't have enough to do in the growth and development of this town anyhow, but it's sad that we have to continue spending valuable time for one person's agenda. So I'd just like to see that the council realistically follow the state guidelines of breakaway on any of those pylons out there, or posts, whatever you choose to call them.
All right. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Is it anyone else back there? Is that the only one?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have closed session pursuant to the 143-318 to establish or instruct the public body, staff, or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken on or behalf of the public body in negotiations. Do I have a motion that we go into closed session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's for personnel.